Good morning. It's good to be together with Kurt and Seth and with all of you when you choose to watch this. It is Holy Week, and we've got some stuff happening this week. So, our headline news is that it's Holy Week. We begin tomorrow with Love Feast at 6 o'clock in the narthex, and we invite you to come. If this is your first Love Feast with the Manchester Church of the Brethren and you don't quite know how we do it, please feel free to contact any of us or another church member so we can talk you through things. Every congregation kind of has their own nuance. Ours is pretty traditional, but we do things a little different too. So
We
you
can
are
even, Amy, we can even partner them with somebody
yes.
if they want to, I don't know, I want to call it a love feast buddy, but it sometimes helps to have someone that you're going to sit with, and maybe if you're interested in even watching foot
Yeah.
washing or doing foot washing, we'd be happy to match you up. Sorry, I just wanted to offer that too.
Perfect. That's perfect. Thank you for that. And then that moves us to Easter morning. We begin with the sunrise service at 7:30. We'll be in the Memorial Garden. The weather is supposed to be good for us. And that's at 7:30, and it's about a half an hour. And then we move to Easter breakfast. And Seth, what would you like to tell us about that?
Yes. We are going to be having a breakfast that is served by the youth, and also opportunities for donations for the youth for their summer trips. So you'll hear a little bit about that. There'll be some baskets there, and then the youth will be serving a meal of fruit salad and egg casseroles, and the youth will be flipping pancakes. You can even have your choice of blueberries or chocolate chips in those. So come hungry and ready that morning to share in some fellowship at 8 o'clock. And you can sort of come, sometimes people sort of come in, even if you're not there right at 8 o'clock, we'll serve you.
Even if you don't come for the sunrise service, you can come for breakfast.
That's right. And it would be helpful if maybe if you're showing up a little later, maybe no later than 8:30, so that by 9 o'clock, we're able to do some of the cleanup and getting things taken care of. Because then we'll move to worship at 9:30 in the sanctuary. It'll be our regular Easter service. The choir will be singing. It'll be a full and rich morning. After worship, of course, there's time for fellowship. We're not having Sunday school on Easter morning. It's going to be a long morning, especially if you come for sunrise service. So there will not be any Sunday school then after worship.
Mm-hmm. Those are the headlines. Our practice during Lent has been then for the three of us to begin a conversation that we hope is continuing on in your own homes as you ponder the upcoming scripture. But this week, the upcoming scripture is about Easter morning, and we are still before the crucifixion. And so our conversation this morning is going to be along the lines of sharing meaningful moments that we have had in our lives around the movements of Holy Week. And I don't know what Seth and Kurt are going to share, and I'm looking forward to hearing. And I encourage all of you who are listening to this to go into that place of memory of Love Feast or Communion or Palm Sunday or Good Friday or Holy Saturday, which the Church of the Brethren has not historically observed, but there it sits like a pause between Good Friday and Easter. What memories hold meaning for you about Holy Week? So I open it up to Seth or Kurt to share.
I can share one of the first things that came to mind, Amy, when you posed that question. I was thinking about a Holy Week a number of years ago. We had a similar group called Community Table, sort of like the Fellowship of Churches, that put on a shared Good Friday service, and they decided to put together a Tenebrae service. And I had I was not familiar at all with this service. And it was going to be hosted at our church, and so I went. I didn't know what I was going to. We didn't grow up having Good Friday services, Love Feast, and then sort of went right to Easter. And for those that may not be familiar with the Tenebrae service, like myself, you move through these different readings through the Passion story, but they keep removing light until at the end and if you do it in the evening, then late enough, it's completely dark in the room as you end. And I was really struck by the power of that service, especially as I sort of came and was just a little caught off guard. And I think just the importance of finding that space, whether it's a Tenebrae or something else within the progression of Holy Week, to take that time, not just immediately sort of jump into Easter, into resurrection, finding that space for deeper reflection, or maybe literally or symbolically sitting in the darkness. Yeah.
Thank you.
My mind went quite a lot of places. So many experiences over the years that have been so powerful and meaningful. One that I have thought about often over the years was related to Love Feast and feet washing, and remembering, I was a teenager, probably in high school, went reluctantly to Love Feast. I was having some struggles with my parents, especially with my father, and ended up, in the feet washing circle. And as I remember it, he washed my feet, although it could have been the opposite. I could have washed his feet, but I think he washed my feet. And there was just a release in that, a release of anger and disruption, and a movement toward reconciliation just through the ritual.
Thank you. The memory that comes up for me is also a Love Feast memory, and I've gone to Love Feast as long as I could remember in my home church. If you were older than 5, you came and you sat by your parent and observed, and we just passed the basin, the foot washing basin, because at that time only those who were baptized members could participate in the foot washing and communion. And it was just what we did. And it was very traditional, and it was always traditional. It was very predictable. And I loved every bit of predictability of it for all those years. And then at youth camp, we had Love Feast, and we had salty snacks for our meal, and we had communion with Snickers and Coke, and it just expanded this very traditional annual experience that I had, just opened up doors of possibilities for me. But the memory that I really want to share is when I was in college. I was a music major for a brief moment, and I was diagnosed with nodules on my vocal cords. And I was going to have surgery to have them lasered off during spring break. And Holy Week was the week before spring break. And so during the foot washing, we sing hymns, and people could just shout out what hymn they want to sing. And someone shouted out, "Take My Life." And there's a verse that says, "Take my voice and let me sing, always only for my King." And I was so caught by that verse in this moment of envisioning myself in some kind of musical vocation with nodes on my vocal cords, and what was going to be left, and could I sing again? And here's this hymn. It was a very sort of inward personal moment while all of this was happening externally. And I look up, and sitting across the table from me is Rosemary Lang, and she's looking into my eyes. And she just nodded her head and said, "That verse is very personal, isn't it?" And it was the moment of being seen and understood in such a simple but profoundly connected way that this very traditional, predictable ritual offered in that moment, that we could go beyond it, expanded and deeper. And so I always go to Love Feast now expecting something. And sometimes that something happens, sometimes it doesn't, and it's all right, because there it has been. Before I close this, I want to turn back to Seth and Kurt to see if there's anything else that you would like to add.
I made my pitch on Sunday for people to come to Love Feast.
Yeah. Thanks.
Amy, I do think that something always happens.
Yeah.
It may not be that dramatic or that moving and deep, but there is some holy moment that happens, some deepening of relationship and community, some reminder of our own limitations and mortality, some way of connecting with the Spirit of Christ that moves among us. So, you know, I just encourage people to come to Love Feast, you know, go to Good Friday service. Let all of that move through you and in you as we move toward Easter.
Yeah. Thank you. And we'll see you in some of these events coming up.